IVM.
You're listening to Wordy, Wordpecker, Extraordinary Stories of Ordinary Words with Rachel Lopez. You may want to dim the lights for this one. Things are about to get a little dark. They're also about to get a little dramatic, romantic, artistic, and a little mean. We're looking at the origins of the term silhouette. We don't use the term much today, I admit it, but there was a time when getting your portrait done as a profile shadow, with your shadow cast across a screen and someone making an outline so you could completely tell what your features were from the side. They used to be really, really the rage at one point. They've been around since the 1500s, but they got their name, silhouette, in France about 250 years ago, and that's really where we start. In 1759, France was right in the middle of their 7 Years' War. And like all wars, the economy was going bananas. The French finance minister, Etienne de Silhouette, that was his name, had to do something to keep the finances going, right? Like, where is the money going to come from? So he started imposing taxes on luxuries. That makes sense. It makes sense anywhere in the world. This is really how wars work. You're going to need money to run them. But the nobility and the clergy, the rich of France, didn't like that idea. How can you do this? They said. They really hated silhouette. They were so upset that their luxuries were being taxed that they started to impose his name. They started to attach his name to anything that was cheap. And you know what is cheap? A shadow portrait. You don't need skill with oil paints. You don't need to spend hours with marble or bronze to create someone's likeness. So when people made these cheap, quick portraits, the rich would just sneer. They would just look at them and say, ugh, a la silhouette. And that's essentially how the man's name started to get attached to this art form. Poor guy. France not only lost the war, he was ultimately removed from his position way before that, but the name stuck. His name just got stuck to this kind of drawing or painting. And over the years, people forgot about the man behind the name. But silhouettes became really, really popular. They became romantic keepsakes. Particularly when men went off to war at a time before photographs. You would take a little cutout of your loved one and keep it, and that was really your only connection to home, during a really bad time. They were essentially how the less wealthy people started to remember their ancestors. How do you remember your grandmother or an uncle or a beloved child when you don't have photographs? These cutouts were essentially how people remembered their ancestors. They were really all over the place. Silhouettes eventually started to become mechanized. There were machines that would trace your outline, do cutouts, which allowed you to make many, many copies of the same picture, which means, of course, that they became more competitive. But then, of course, photography took over and silhouettes were gone forever. Well, not forever. These days, it's mostly fashion people who use silhouette. It's pretty useful as a term to describe how a dress or a pair of pants is going to fit on the human body. Is it a structured silhouette? Is it a flowing silhouette? Is it a va-va-voom silhouette? Is it a ball gown silhouette? There are also street artists in Paris that will make a shadow portrait of you just for fun, which is really fun if you care about that sort of thing. But if you want the original Mr. Silhouette, you'll be disappointed. Etienne de Silhouette died without having children. His will was really sweet. He gave all of his wealth, and he had considerable wealth. He gave all of his money to the needy. But unfortunately, his legacy is just his last name, and silhouettes are all we have of Mr. Silhouette. This was Wordy Wordpecker. If you liked this show, you can listen to other fantastic podcasts on the IVM Podcast app and on our website, ivmpodcasts.com, or wherever you get your podcast from. Don't forget to follow IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. And you can reach out to me on Twitter at Greater Bombay and hit me up with your favorite words.
Every week comes a show where three people come together to tell you about stuff they like. A movie, a TV show, a book, and other stuff. Tune in every Monday on the IVM Podcast app to IVM Likes. Batman approves this message. Thank you, Batman.
Do you have a night routine? Well, everyone has one. And the to-do list usually looks like this. Brush your teeth, set that alarm, get into your pajamas, and switch off those screens. But here's one more to add to that list. Tune into the Positively Unlimited podcast for a dose of positive action and tips on how to build powerful mindsets. Episodes out every Monday on the IVM Podcast app, ivmpodcast.com, or wherever you tune into podcasts.